Hello people, and welcome to part 13 of Ilos with me, FewCandy. Yes, that's right. Overcharged Egg has somehow willingly agreed to let me do a little build in Ilos, so I am just insanely excited to get started and get cracking on this. And also really flattered and honoured that he has allowed me to do this. So for anyone who may not have seen Ilos, firstly, where have you been? And secondly, this transport hub that Egg built in the last episode is just absolutely stunning. You would have seen those floods of people walking across here and then all around these quays as well. And for anyone who's followed my Origin series, you'll know I'm absolutely obsessed with quays. And to see all these people walking across them and across this elevated zoo path as well, it's awesome. I absolutely love this transport hub. So good. And these little roundabouts as well that are dotted all throughout Ilos. Really cute. Absolutely love this up to the Mall of Moderation there. Gorgeous build. This whole city is stunning. And I love how we got this clock tower integrated into the campus here as well, into the back of this building. That looks so good. It just works perfectly in there. Yeah, the University of Tucson is just looking awesome. And another little favourite area of mine as well is this EM Beach area. Again, with the key, unsurprisingly, for anyone who knows me. But absolutely love this. The little boats here. The gravel path coming down. Oh, it's perfect. And we've got the balloon park as well. I love seeing that balloon flying over the city. Looks absolutely awesome. And these European bridges as well blend in perfectly around here. Oh, it just looks so good. It just looks so good. And the other area that I want to give a little nod to is this train yard because, wow, just look at it. It is so good. He's absolutely nailed this Phoenix desert vibe here. And this little car lot is just, I just absolutely love it. And also seeing the Williams building there makes me think that, you know, someone from Siobhan's family has come over from wherever Origin is in the world and built their little Williams car lot factory thing here in Ilos. There we go. But just everything about this, I love the integration of the sign, the cars. It's just, oh, it's so well done. It's so well done. Egg is a master detailer. So coming on to my build for today. So I'm going to be filling out this mile grid here. And of course, because it is Ilos and it is an overcharged egg city, we are going to start off by diving into Google Earth. So the plan for my mile grid build is to do a little medical centre, an apartment complex, and then also a little dirt bike racing track as well, just to go with it. And the inspiration that I'm kind of using for this is this Pinnacle Family Medical Centre just on the outskirts of Phoenix, because I absolutely love how this car park kind of goes round in a circle and how it looks there. So it's obviously not going to be an exact recreation, but we're going to take a lot of inspiration from this little medical centre, particularly how the roads come in round the roundabout and yeah, these car parks in this cool circle round the main medical building there. And then we'll also be doing an apartment complex, taking inspiration from this little lot here. So we've got loads of car parks just flowing all throughout these apartments and dotted round in big kind of flowing long patterns. Some of these smaller condos as well in the front here, like single story, low rise kind of housing actually, more than the condos that we've got around the back here. But definitely looking at integrating all of these car parks and big roads going all the way through the complex and all the way around. And actually, interestingly, there's not too much communal areas here. So there's like this little bit here with a bit of a parasol awning and a fountain. There are patches of grass throughout as well. Quite green, actually. Quite green here in comparison to the desert that surrounds it. So this is where we are going to be getting our inspiration from for my mile grid today. So to start off with, I am just going to clear out this area from all the bushes and cacti that we can see here, just so we've got a completely clean slate to start off with. So thinking about the inspiration we've just seen on Google Earth, I'm going to start off by laying out the road network to surround this medical centre. So we're going to use the one-way system, actually, the one-way, just the vanilla road with grass here, and bring that out to about halfway through the grid, slightly less than, about 42 units there. And then what we will do is bring in another road 3 units apart just down to the main road there. And then at the end of this we will put in a roundabout. And then from this roundabout, I'd like to add in another connection to this collector here. So we're just going to bring in a bendy road, actually. Just like so. And connect it up, try and get a really nice, 90-degree angle like that. Just so we've got a little bit of variation coming into this area. And then here, what I want is I want to make sure that these roads are parallel to these main collectors. So I'm just going to bring out, this is a temporary road here, temporary connection like so. And then look to make sure that this road is going straight out of here into this roundabout. So we'll bring that at a 90-degree angle, and then it doesn't matter if it varies very slightly from that at the end here, because what we can do is on our roundabout is then just use move it just to adjust this ever so slightly to move that node round, and then look to snap the roundabout back in. And then what we will do is break this connection here because we definitely don't want this one in. So we're going to have the medical centre situated here and the apartment complex in this corner, and then the racing track will be out this side. So what I would like is a road that comes down into the medical complex from here. So we'll just bring that in like so. And then I'd also like another connection onto this road. So I'm just going to bring that across and make sure that snaps in at a 90-degree angle. So think back to what we saw on Google Earth. The medical centre was situated in quite a large circle. So what I am going to use here is parking lot roads to create a big roundabout, essentially, from which we can build from. So I think what we want is to get a radius of about 9 units. So from here. So let's bring that up and we'll bring it around 9 units. That should be also going across 9 units, so we can get our perfect circle in. And then we'll do that all the way around. And this will be the area which contains the medical centre there. So now in order to get our circular car parks in here, I'm going to use multi-network tool with the parallel road function. And we're just going to bring that all the way around here. We're using parking lot roads still for this. And then what we want to do is increase that radius. And this way we can just make sure that we've got perfectly parallel roads to this circle. So everything's absolutely in line and looking super duper neat. So if we do it like that, I think that gives us plenty of room to put the car parks in. So let's click enter there. And then what we'll need to do is just tidy up these ends. So I don't want that necessarily coming all the way down there. So I am actually just going to add in a node so we don't lose the full distance there. And then we'll delete off this end here. I also want a little gap in here for a small park area. So let's firstly actually just get in our, and I've just realised I've done this on the wrong road. I definitely want the slightly less well maintained road, which has the slightly greyer look to it, I think, rather than the ultra black. So let's grab our car parks that we're going to be putting in, and then we will just connect them up. So yeah, I think like that is going to work okay. And then what we do want to do is just break out this area here so that we can put a little park, a little patch of green in there. And I also want to break this circle up a little bit so that it's not just a complete roundabout here. So what I am going to do is take the pedestrian path, and I think we might use zoo path for this. I'm wondering whether to make it one way, but no, we'll make it 2 ways. And we're just going to break that up there just so it's a little bit of pedestrian path. And ideally would ban cars from this as well. So let's go ahead and do that and just make sure nothing is driving down here. And we don't even need SOS or rubbish because they'll be able to get to all the buildings in the middle from somewhere else. So that is a fully pedestrianised area now. And then here for the entrance to the medical centre, I'm just going to add a kind of little feature circle. Is the only way I can think to describe it in here. So it's just going to be a very small, I'm going to turn snapping off for it so we can get it really small. There we go. So it looks awful right now, but let's use move it just to tidy that up. So if I don't want to move these nodes too much, but if we bring that around, then we can kind of shape it so it's a little bit more circular. So we can detail up this little area with some nice kind of plaza action in the middle here. Definitely a few trees or maybe even a fountain actually at the start of the medical centre. But there, that gives us our car parking frames around this side. And then for the other side, what I am going to use is the other type of car parks. And we know that there's a lot of car parks in Ilos, so I'm going to go ahead with continuing on that same theme. And we're going to use some big car parking lots in here. So there we have our car parking lot. So we've got 2 big car parking lots over here, a little bit of disabled parking as well, and then our parking lot roads in that funny circular shape that we saw on Google Earth. So next up, what I want to do is get in our medical assets. So I am going to use this first choice emergency room, which I know Egg has used elsewhere in Ilos, but it's a particularly cute little medical asset. And there's a few different things that we can do with this. So I'm actually going to put in a few of them. And what we're going to do is use Move It just to arrange these really nicely. So I'm going to join them together essentially to make one big kind of complex. Now the other thing I'd like to do here as well is give this building a little bit of height. So we're actually going to use some of the vanilla office buildings for this. And the ones that I think will work here are these ones. So I'm just going to plop in 2 of them, and I definitely want to make sure that these are the same colour. So let's just reset this with Move It. Yeah, so we've got the same 2 buildings here. And then what we can do with these is, and they'll still be fully functional, even though they are merged into these buildings, is kind of bring these out in the middle here just to give a little bit of height to this central building. Now, there's a few things that we do need to watch out for, so like these windows at the bottom, but if we just drop this down with Move It, we can get rid of those. It aligns quite nicely to the edge of the building there. We obviously want to make sure that that one's the same height, but yeah, I think that sort of works together. If we ignore the no connections for the moment, and we will sort that out, I think that sort of works together to give a little bit of height to this medical building quite nicely. So yeah, that's just a way that you can combine a few different assets to change it up and give it a slightly different look and feel to it. And that ambulance just zooming across, is that the Ilos drivers for you, isn't it? They just don't care where they go. I'm thinking about these road connections. What I would like to do is bring out one of the pedestrian park paths as a road here, which will help them to think that they are actually connected, even though they may not be. And I'm just going to turn snapping off for this so we can bring it out quite nice and fluidly. But what we are going to do is bring it essentially all the way around the building here, just to make sure that those buildings are happy and content and not freaking out about not being connected up here. And actually that seems to have done it. So we could go ahead and connect this in down here. And then let's of course use Move It to make this a hell of a lot nicer. And looking at it now, I'm wondering if actually ZooPath would look better here. It's more consistent with that and kind of blends into the desert terrain a little bit better, doesn't it? And we've got an awful lot of black concrete with all the car parks around this building, so I think that does work quite a bit better. So what we can do around here is just come in with a little bit of surface painter, the ruin, to get rid of some of this concrete around the path and just tidy up that edge a little bit. And then we've got lots of opportunity for detailing, which we will come on to later in the episode. Now the other little bit of detailing that I did want to put in here was this little park in this area. So first things first, let's bring out some path. Yeah, because we've used it here, we'll continue to use ZooPath for this. So I'm just going to bring this out along the edges of these car parks here. And then what we will do is try and bring this round to mirror the circle pattern of those roads all the way around like this. So this just gives us a defined area for our little grassy patch. And then we can come into terrain tools and we'll use the sand function to get in our grass into Ilos and just try and trim it back away from the edge there. But there we go. So we've got our green patch. And then I definitely want to try and mimic the hedge along the back there. So we're going to use some bushes actually to put this in. We're going to use these bushes for this. And we come into prop line tool and let's get quite a close gap on this so that it does become more hedge-like than being quite spaced out. And what we'll do is we'll follow this path all the way along the back here to give us that makeshift hedgerow. And bring that right up to the car park there. And now I've got some gazebo assets that I do want to put in here to mimic mimic that little area that we've seen. And I won't cover up the path just for the whole purpose of City Skylines. We'll have Sims walking through it, so let's respect that a little bit. And we won't use that, but we will bring in a few of these little gazebos just lining the back of this park area here. I think we'll do it just like that, and then we definitely want to get in a little bit more greenery around here. Let's definitely use some of the California fan palms to line up this area and to line these paths down the side here. I think they'll look really, really good for that. And we can vary up the heights a little bit, so I think I'll put a particularly tall one just over there, and then also a couple of shorter ones just out the front here too, so we've got a little bit of a variation in height there. And then as well, on top of that, we can also look at introducing a few more bushes. So that just gives us our little grassy area there, which breaks up a bit of the monotony of the car parks as well, I find. And now for detailing purposes in amongst these, I'm actually going to use Surface Painter to get rid of this pavement texture in the middle of these car parks here. Because again, what we saw on Google Earth is it was very sandy in the middle of these with a couple of bushes and a couple of different trees. So we will do exactly that here. Get rid of some of this concrete, which again helps to break up a lot of that grey. We don't want to see too much of the grey. Because this sand colour as well, I'm used to seeing green in Oregon, so it's nice to have a bit of sand and a bit of a tropical vibe. And yeah, let's definitely bring in some of the fan palms into here. And we can also mix this up with a couple of the new Mr. Maison palm trees as well. And then of course we will also add in just a couple of bushes along these ends for a little bit of extra detailing. So yeah, that is the main basis of our medical centre, and we will come in and detail up the rest of this later in the episode. But to move on now, we are going to head over to where the apartment complex is going to be. So for the apartment complexes, what I want is to continue this road along the back edge here. Let's just make sure we've got snapping to nose turned on and all our snapping as well, so we get a perfect parallel road here. I think actually we can bring this just a little bit closer to this main road. So we will bring it out like that. And then I'm quite keen to curve this around the end. And now here as well, I quite like to just soften out this bend a little bit. So yeah, let's just give that a very small bend on that corner as well. And then I think with the two bends there, that helps to keep the road kind of in a bit of more of a flowing nature. Now, what we will have is a few different connections into this. So again, I think I'll continue to use the grass-lined road for this. And we will bring out a back entrance here and then essentially have the main entrance to the complex coming in from this side. And I'm thinking to help with traffic flow as well, what we will do is bring out another connection to the main road down to here. So we'll just bring that out straight like that. And yeah, that node's moved, so it's not too close. So we're connecting onto that main collector there. So in terms of the assets that we want to use in this area, we are going to use these apartment condos with these nice red roofs. So what I'm going to do is actually just place in a whole ton of them, because we're going to use Move It to combine them really nicely to make one big apartment complex. And there we go. So the next thing to do is then to start adding in the road network. So we want to have lots of little parking lots, as we saw on Google Earth, going all the way around. So little parking lots out the back here, out here, in amongst the houses, and then a road network that also runs all the way through. And there we go. So we do still need to add some decorations into the big parking lots, and obviously loads of detailing all around the apartment complex. But just before we move on, there is one little area that I would like to do, which is this area here, where we are going to put a swimming pool. So very much keeping in with what Egg has done elsewhere in Ilos. Yeah, we're going to do a little community pool area. So what we will do is we'll use Propline tool with the linear fence fill on, and we're just going to bring a really nice square of these all the way around the pool. So just like that. And then what we do need to do is use Surface Painter under this. So we'll just paint it into the ruined texture and get rid of all those grass sprites. And we'll do that across this whole area actually, because it doesn't make sense that they are in this kind of, yeah, communal garden area here. And then what we do want to do is add in some props. So we'll get some deck chairs, umbrellas and that sort of thing just to decorate it up. So there we go. So I have, yeah, just put in deck chairs, umbrellas, and I've also put in some more of these little gazebos that we had in the garden area around the medical centre as well, because I thought they looked quite nice, with a couple of little tables and chairs dotted around inside them too. So we have got our nice little communal pool area. And one other thing that I do want to do is just bring in a path network for it. So if we're using concrete path, actually, because we have already painted over with ruined, we're not going to see this, so it will be like act like a bit of an invisible path. And what we'll do is just try and bring it down the back of these umbrellas and then out this side, and we'll just carry it on down to the edge there and use a little bit more surface painter just to get rid of it. So it is essentially like an invisible path, and we have of course got the lights there, but actually in terms of the positioning I don't mind that too much, because at least it's on the edge of the pool area. So there we go, we have the shape of our apartment block there. So lots more detailing to come in and do around these areas. We'll add some green bits and a few more communal type areas, maybe a little playground, something like that. Definitely lots of walking paths to keep the walkability up all around this complex. So we will come through and do that in a detailing time lapse shortly. But now to move on to our racing track. So first things first, with the racetrack, I am going to put in quite a lot of parking. So I'm just going to come off the main collector about here with a small connection like that. Then we're going to use our big parking lots to create a nicely shaped car park in this corner. And I have gone for the ones without the medians in it, because I feel like this is a kind of like a dirty racetrack. I don't think the car park would be too heavily decorated. We will obviously come in and put in lights and some little bits of detail in this in the detailing time lapse, but yeah, I'm going to leave it without the medians for this particular area. So coming down to this corner, one thing I would like to introduce here is the traffic park. Just because, you know, we're at a racetrack and this is a little go-karting track, so I feel like it would go quite nicely in this area. So I'm just going to move this over just very slightly so it sits a little bit closer into this corner of the road. So it's right outside next to the car park like that, and nice and snug into this corner. And then from here, what I will do is transition into dirt roads. So we'll just use the normal gravel road to come out just a little bit. And then what we will do actually is a very, very small roundabout on the end here, just as a bit of a turnaround point. Now, the next thing to do is to lay out our racetrack. And what I'm actually going to use for this is the pedestrian roads, but the nature reserve road. Because when we have a look at this, when we lay it out, I think it doesn't have the rocks next to it. Now it does have the lights, which is a little bit bothersome for me, but it looks nice against the sand texture. And I think we can use node controller here as well to widen out these nodes to make it a little bit of a wider track. So that is what we are going to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out the format of the track, and then we'll use a lot of Move It to turn it into a lumpy, bumpy dirt racing track. So there we have the main outline of it, and I have gone round with no controller and widened every node, so stretched it out using no controller to 200% just to make the track a little bit wider and more believable as an actual racing track, so it could fit multiple cars on it rather than just one or two. So now what we want to do is give it some lumps and bumps and that sort of thing. So what I'm going to essentially do is, I want to make sure these nodes are lined up here, is go round and raise nodes up with the ground, and then what we will do is conform the train afterwards and smooth things out and raise it up as appropriate. But we want to make quite a few little lumps and bumps like there would be on a normal dirt racing track. So there we have the main format of the race track. So we do need to go round and smooth out the terrain and get rid of a lot of this kind of cliff texture that's poking through. But we've used a lot of node controller on this. So things like this corner here, where we've got a bit of banking, we've used node controller, the twist function on it, which just angles the road at different angles, so that we can get that nice banking so that the bikes or the cars could realistically smoothly go round the corner. It's maybe a bit of a dangerous track, I'm not going to lie, but it would be a fun one anyway. So what we do need to do now is go round and smooth out all of this terrain and just make that a little bit less, well, a lot less janky. I've tried to keep the sort of upwards bumps near each other so that we can easily enough smooth this all out and get rid of some of that sort of tearing texture that we're seeing poking through here. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and do a lot of smoothing. And just to help make it feel a little bit more natural, what I am going to do is actually just bring out some other peaks in the ground, just so it's not such a defined area around the racetrack. So just some smaller kind of lumpy bumpy bits around the outside of the track here, but just very subtle, so it's nothing that would take your eye away from anything. It still looks like quite a man-made track in that sense. So now the final thing to do is just to add a little bit of a decoration around the start-finish line here. So what I am going to do is grab the same road again, and we're not going to use no control on this one. We'll keep it at that length, and we're just going to bring out a sort of semi pit lane parallel to this road, just like that. And yeah, we want to make sure we definitely want to make sure we're using no controller on this to stretch this back out to 200, so it doesn't look quite so silly there. But we can do that, and then in order to kind of create little garages along the outside, I am going to use this asset here, which has a garage door on the front of it, and we're going to do a really big row of these to make it look a little bit like pit garages, even though I know a lot of these dirt tracks wouldn't necessarily have these, but I think it's adds a nice little effect, and it's obviously pretty commonplace in racetracks in general. So there we go. And then what I would also like in here is actually an office building, because I want to make it look like a sort of race control building is what I'm thinking here, or something where the officials go to discuss stuff in general. So the asset that I am looking at is this one here, which actually quite ironically says Rapido Motors on it, which I do quite like. So let's just move that over right into this corner, and we'll definitely use Surface Painter here to get rid of that pavement texture if we can. So let's just move it down to a single. I don't want to ruin the road, that's the only thing here. Doesn't matter if it's a bit bumpy to it. But yeah, let's definitely get rid of that pavement so it blends in nicely there. But yeah, I think that sort of works well as a bit of a race control. And then of course we definitely want fencing along the front here to keep the rabble out. And what I am actually thinking is that we will use the chain link fence from Natural Disasters DLC, which I think has like quite a nice effect for the edge of a racetrack like that. So let's use Propline Tool, and we'll get our linear fence fill on just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. And we will draw, we need to turn the fence around. And then, yeah, we will draw in a big, long, straight line of fence all the way along this start-finish line, like so. And we will actually do it in between the pit lane and the main start line there as well, just to give a little bit more protection. We could go ahead and fence in the entire thing, but I think because it's a relatively sort of rural track, I don't think it is really needed there. So now the other thing that I've not factored in is actually some access for this. So I am going to just break that fence there, and what we'll do is just get our normal, I think we'll get the 1 unit rural road actually, and just bring it across like so. So let's move this piece of fence back to this side. Yeah, that should be okay. What might be quite good here is actually the gate. So there is a chain link fence gate as well, which goes really nicely with this fence. So let's put that in, and then we can make the fence work around it. Yeah, so there we go. So that's the kind of entrance onto the track. So cars could actually drive around here if they wanted to. And actually, so that we do have cars driving, I am going to do something slightly random. And that is put just one little commercial unit out over this side. And what I'm going to use for this is one of the organic and local produce buildings, which is this little container unit here. Because I feel like we could kind of get away with making this seem like it is a kind of a race control hut or something of that sort. So what I would quite like is actually for this to go up on a hillside somewhere. So let's just bring it up here. Make it the same height as this, and then we'll need to just work the terrain around it a little bit. So yeah, like that, I think kind of works okay. And again, we'll obviously get rid of that concrete texture. And it also will need power, which is going to be slightly frustrating to bring in here. So let's just have a little look at where the power lines. I mean, we could just go straight across from this complex, which isn't too bad. And that should provide it enough. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that's okay. Now, there are a couple of other things that I would like to do in here. So if we grab I'm going to go back to the pedestrian road again and the nature reserve one, so continuing on that theme. And if we just come out of this roundabout straight up like this. And the only reason for this, in fact, actually, sorry, let's do the two-way one. There we go. And so the only reason for this is so that we can put some buildings here. I think actually the rural road is a little bit better. Yeah, that's it. And then what we'll do is we'll get rid of the grass sprites as well, this side, so that we're kind of clearing out an area where pedestrians might go. Actually, we don't want it down by the road. So this is kind of where the viewing public would sit to watch the race. And we don't want to go too far onto that road, so we'll just clear it out like that. And then in here, what we can do is a bit of an area for entertainment purposes. So let's just bring in a few more, actually, of these container units, which I think just work really nicely here in a place like this. So like a couple of cafes. Yeah, some of these work pretty well. Even some of these buildings aren't too bad, but we want to make them look kind of ish, a little bit temporary. But yeah, so that they work as well. And then the other assets actually that work really, really nicely here are the 1x1 modern commercial centre buildings, these little food trucks. So we'll definitely bring in some of those as well. And in fact, let's just mix it up a little bit more. So we'll move that one down there, put that one there. Yeah, just so we've got this kind of food court area lining this way. And then actually what I will do is just grab this road again and just bring it up a little bit this way. Because then we can have a couple more assets in this area. And again, I'm thinking like, I don't want anything too big. I'm thinking maybe one of those, make it look a little bit like it's maybe some toilets or something of that description. And in fact, we could actually just revert to park life and put in some actual restrooms. Why not? Why not? Let's do that. So now in the middle, there's a couple of other props that I would like to do before we come on to the main detailing time lapse. And I would like to put in some screens, and I was kind of tempted. Like, I feel like this is quite a rural area to have these big screens, but I do think that that looks good. So I am going to put one of those there and another one here so that people standing across this side could see the action on the big screens if they wanted to. So in terms of the main assets that I want to get in here, I think that is really it. And I was just going to think, is that RV going up to that small commercial one? I'm not sure. So I think with that, it is now time to come onto a detailing time lapse. So we're going to put in more picnic benches. I'm going to put in a load of cars around here as well. So like cars that are sort of parked up on the dirt here, because I think that, you know, people would, if it wasn't a race day, they'd come up and just park their cars wherever and not bother with the main car park. We obviously need to get lights into here as well. We'll get in lots of the bushes and the Ilos dried grass. So with that, I will jump into the detailing time lapse and be right back. And there we go. So that is my Ilos mile grid complete. And we have come in with quite a lot of detailing around the apartment complex. So we've got lots of planters with trees, flowers with palm trees all around the outside here, lots of surface painter to tidy all that up. We've got walking paths around everywhere, just to make sure that there is walkability around the whole complex and crossing these roads out onto the main roads as well. I have put in a little playground and a couple of picnic benches dotted around for communal access. We have also included these covers on the car parks for a little bit of shade as well, just to help in that Arizona heat. And over here I've just used trees just to vary it up a little bit, so some nice shady trees for this particular car park. I've also added in this really small commercial strip here, just with a garage, a shop and a church's chicken as well, just to serve these residential districts. And now coming on to the medical complex, so I've done tiling all around here just to break up the texture of the sand, although it is very subtle against it because it's very similar colouring, but I think it just helps to add a little bit of variation. And then over here we've got a fountain in this little roundabout, a little feature there. We've put in a makeshift playground here and then an actual park over here, so lots of play equipment for children while they're waiting for whatever their medical needs may be. We have lots of green patches as well, exactly like we saw on Google Earth, with a few different flowers and lots of palm trees. Again, utilising those sunshades on the car park here as well. And I've also added in a very small residential district just into this area, fenced off some of the backyards here, but done all kind of one-storey low development housing, just to kind of blend in with the complex that's over on this side of the road there. Heading on over to the dirt track, we haven't done too much more here. I've put in these signs here, which quite coincidentally has some cars on it, so I thought that looked quite good. We've put in some fencing to fence in the main complex there. I've also added in these benches just into this communal area and a load of car props as well. So we've got these few cars just stacked up here, as if people have just driven right up to the racetrack on a non-race day. I've got a couple of abandoned cars dotted around as well. Like this little bit over here, we've got a few abandoned cars and then a couple of normal cars, like as if some teenagers or something have come to park at the side of the track to, I don't know, do whatever it is that they're doing down there. So here it is. This is my contribution to Ilos. So I just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to Overcharged Egg. I mean, you are my biggest city building inspiration in Cities Skylines. So to have the opportunity to build, and the fact that you trusted me to build in Ilos, is just an absolutely massive honour, and I've had a complete blast, and I hope I've captured that Ilos vibe in as good a way as I possibly can for you. For anyone who may not be subbed to Overcharged Egg, firstly, what are you doing? Go and give him a sub. He is an absolutely amazing city builder. Palavan was my main inspiration for Oregon, and Ilos is just absolutely incredible as well in this modded series. And we've got a long time left here as well, which is what we all like to hear. So there was a lot of detailing as well here that you wouldn't have seen, so stick around to watch those cinematics. And if you have enjoyed this, please do whack that like button. It really helps me out. And drop me a comment as well. Let me know what you thought. Otherwise, I will catch you next time. Bye bye.